Welcome to Kicking It Local, the podcast all about the football community in South Australia. I'm your host, Johnny Kecko, and today I am joined by a freelance football writer for the Inner Sanctum and Front Page Football, covering the A-League, the Australia Cup, the Socceroos, and also our very own NPL and state leagues. I am joined by Antonis Pagonis. Mate, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Good to be here.
It's good to have someone in the room that's probably played just as minimal football as me, but has heavily involved in the local game as me as well, to share the same room together.
Yeah, only a couple of years of junior football, Adelaide Olympic, and then just indoor. But yeah, that's just about it.
No, but you are just as involved as anyone I've had on my podcast in the local game right now, but it's only been a short period you've been involved in the local game with writing. How have you we're going to talk a lot in depth about how you got to this point, but just quickly, first of all, how did you find it being involved in this local game that we have here in South Australia?
Yeah, I've been following it for a while, but yeah, it was through the A-League actually, about a year ago. I'm a teacher, so school holidays, looking for something to do. Jack Hudson, that runs the Inner Sanctum, puts up a post. He's a Port Adelaide supporter, so I know him through that. Puts up a post saying, "Want to write? Let us know." I was like, why not? Give it a go.
Yep.
Talk about Adelaide United. And then with the A-League season finishing, I'm already following the NPLs. So I'm like, it's only natural. And here we are a year later.
Yep, and a lot's happened in that year. You've had a lot of experience talking to some big names in the local game and being there for some big moments as well, which I want to talk all about later. But to get to this point now, you've only been here for half your life in Australia, and the other half started over in Greece with the name of obviously Antonis Pagonis, but it's pronounced a little bit differently, isn't it, in Greek? Because Greek names have got that different pronunciation to it. Can you give it to me?
The N and the T make a D sound, so it's Adonis, and the G is a different sound in Greek, more like a Y, so it's Antonis Pagonis in Greek. But yeah, no one's going to say that in Australia, so Antonis is also fine. And we're experienced in Australian football as well. We've got Thierry Antonis, so it's a good precedent to follow.
There you go. Well, that's a good one. But I do love those names. You fit in well with the local community and all that. And you also said you were at Olympic as well. So
yeah, playing, I think it was under 12s and under 13s when I was in high school.
Yep. But a little bit of a great way to ease your way into the Australian culture here in, especially in South Australia and the football community. But let's go back to where you're in Greece. 12 years of your life started in Greece. What was the experience like growing up in Europe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's much different, a different culture altogether. Football is obviously much bigger over there than it is over here, and something like the AFL, my uncle, when we used to come to Australia for holidays, used to get me toy football, Adelaide footballs, and I thought they were NFL rugby balls, American football. So yeah, didn't have much of a concept of that, but yeah, it was all really heavily football in Greece, and basketball. Greeks are really big with basketball too.
Yep. With the football side of it, did you ever? Was there a team? Which team was your team back there? Were you like a massive fan back then?
Yeah, so I grew up my first few years around the corner from a club that's actually recently gone back promoted in the first division in Greece called Ionikos, which is in the west suburbs of Athens. But our club was and is Olympiakos, which is the major club in our region near the ports. So that's still my club. I'll follow them. In a couple of months, I will be in Greece going to their games again. Nice. So big Olympiakos fans we are.
That's going to be a good experience. What was it like to be at those games? Did you ever go to the games regularly or not really? Because you were young back then.
As someone that was young, not really, because schools work a lot differently in Greece. So you start at 7 in the morning very early, but you finish at 1 o'clock. You go home for a couple of hours for dinner and whatever, homework, and then you go to school after school. So I'd go home at 1 o'clock, 1:45 I think it was, and then at 4 o'clock I'd have an English school after school. And then once you reach high school, which I thankfully didn't in Greece, you start doing other things like ancient Greek, like ICT, like a third language.
Oh, wow.
So it gets very full on after school. So we didn't have much of an opportunity. but it's something I got to appreciate more as a visitor in the years later. That when I went over, I always wanted to go to a basketball game, to a football game,
Yeah.
because you just get to appreciate it much more when you don't have all those burdens on you.
Yeah, I get you. Well, did you ever stay up later? Was it early nights for you as a kid, or?
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
a very firm bedtime when we were younger.
So growing up in Australia would have been a lot different for you when you got here. But that period of growing up there, do you think that it's helped you for the way life is here in Australia now?
For sure, because I think it's also the being in different situations as much
Yeah.
as it is the culture, and knowing, you know what, I can adapt.
Yeah.
Like, Greek is my first language. My mum is Australian. She used to speak to us in English growing up.
Yep.
But yeah, I grew up speaking Greek primarily for 12 years. So it was an adjustment period, but I think it served its purpose very well, to be honest.
Then when you moved to Australia, was there any reason to move here? Was it work or like family reasons? Or?
Yeah, so my dad was a builder in Greece.
Okay.
And 2008 happens,
Yeah.
financial crisis, banks don't give out loans, people don't buy houses.
Yep.
My dad really didn't want to come to Australia, but it got to a point that he actually suggested it.
Yeah.
So that happened in 2010. Mum is Greek but born and raised in Australia, made us all Australian citizens when we were born.
Yep.
So it wasn't hard actually moving on that side. The tough side was, I guess, getting used to the culture, finding jobs for my parents.
Yep.
But yeah, that was the reason. No one was buying houses basically, and my dad made money making houses.
Did he end up making building houses when he got here, or
Yeah.
did he change?
He altered what he was doing here. He was just a plasterer, so
Yep.
he was going around just plastering.
Here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
here in Adelaide, and they moved back to Greece actually before COVID hit. So they're back in Greece, and it's just me and my brother here now.
Oh, okay. Well, how did you find the moving to Australia as a 12-year-old? Was it hard?
Yeah, you get quite excited by it.
Yeah.
As a 12-year-old, like, oh, I'm going to go to this new place. Then you show up and you're actually there.
Yeah.
You have to speak English. You have to get used to it. It was a little bit tough for a couple of years, but once you find your groove, it's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And hearing like some of the stuff my friends had to go through in Greece, work-wise, the load at school-wise, I'm like, thank God I only finished primary school in Greece, you know? I'm very blessed that we got this move, because like I don't know what life will be there like right now if I never moved.
Well, the friends you got there now, what's their life like compared to yours at the
Yeah.
moment? They got similar jobs, or is it as hard or easier for them?
The uni system is a lot different. It's a lot more rigorous, and
Yeah.
a few of them are still at uni. Some of them, my closest friend just finished university, and he has to go off to the army now for 9 months, the compulsory service.
Yep.
Because no one will even hire him if he doesn't do that.
Oh, wow.
So he's just gone off to do that, and then it's just a struggle of finding a job. And then financially, that's a whole nother thing, because prices are going up, their wages aren't keeping up. It's not what we have here, but much, much worse.
Yeah.
So it's very tough.
Well, off air, we'll talk a little bit about the school systems here to the what it's like over there in Greece. And although we're 4 years apart in age, we've been out of school almost pretty much the exact same amount of time. But we both finished year 12, which is an interesting one, because when you came here, you were saying off air that the system's a little bit different over there in Greece, that you were a couple of years ahead here in Australia when you moved here.
I think it's how the seasons work as well, because obviously Northern Hemisphere, you finish for summer in June, when here we finish for summer in December.
Yeah.
So what happened, I finished year 6 in Greece, which here it's primary school now as well. In Greece, it was the end of primary school then. I came here to sign up for a primary school. In year 7, they said he's already done primary school. Take him to year 8. I do term 3, which was June, July 2010 at the Secondary School of English. Do term 4 at Underdale. And they say, yeah, he's doing fine. Just move him straight to year 9. So basically I did no year 7 and 2 terms of year 8.
Yep.
And I managed to finish school at 16, which big win, I think.
Well, there you go. 16-year-old finishing high school. Were you seen any differently to all your friends?
I think at the start you see that happens a bit, but then you just become part of the group.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that gets mentioned much anymore. There were weird moments though, like in university, for example, when I was doing a course at 16, and the lecturer had to go out and give out flyers to sign to watch a movie. And I was like, why are we doing this? She's like, oh, there's someone here that's 16. And I'm just looking around the room. I'm like, yep, that'd be me.
Well, you're almost like the Garan Quo of the of university back then.
Yeah, I guess so.
16-year-old going to the World Cup, 16-year-old going to the university. So
It's definitely an experience.
maybe you should give him some pointers on what it's like to be going somewhere
I think
as the youngest person.
his thing is just a little bit more pressure on him than it was on me.
But during that period, did you ever play soccer when you moved here? Did you ever have that opportunity?
Yeah, I played for Adelaide Olympic for a couple of years.
Yeah. That's when when you first got here?
Yeah, when I got here for the first couple of years, I did that. Then at school, I started doing Greek. I went to St. George College, and it's a Greek school, but they don't actually give the lesson of Greek online in year 11 and 12. You have to do it after school.
Oh, wow.
So in year 11 and 12, I was doing Greek after school.
Yep.
Which took out a couple of nights
Yeah.
and made it very hard to attend 2-3 training sessions a week. So after a couple of years at Olympic, I put that aside to do that. And then ever since, I've just been playing indoor pretty regularly.
Yeah, and did you find that easier having that playing soccer? And obviously you got the link of supporting football over there in Greece. Did that make it easier for you to make friends and stuff like that as well? Or not?
Yeah, I guess it's a common interest. But I think at that stage, it was still, I guess, the culture, the language barrier. But it was kind of nice to be with, people my own age, because you can't escape that in soccer, in junior football, sorry. So, yeah, it was good to do that. It was something I reckon that really helped me. And, it gets your mind off things that are happening in a big move like that for another country.
Well, not being able to play football, and it seems like football has always been a big part of your life and a love of yours, but not being able to play and have to focus on Greek school, was that a bit of a disappointment not being able to be a part of it? Or
I think I was more annoyed at the time that I had to stay at school until 6:30 twice a week. We were still playing lunchtime, recess time, even after school, waiting for the Greek lessons to start. So we were still playing very heavily.
Yeah.
But it was just none of that organised stuff. But yeah, I think my disappointment at the time was like, really, I have to stay after school so late twice a week for Greek, which is my first language. It's quite a simple thing for me to do. The year 11 and 12 Greek as a second language standard, so it was more annoyance than anything, because I was still playing football quite regularly with my friends. It was just none of that organised aspect for a while.
Well, off air you mentioned that everyone that knows you will know you're a massive Arsenal fan.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the opportunity to go and work in your first job, which is what you went to uni for wasn't for journalism, which is surprising because now you're doing a lot of writing and journalism now, but it was for becoming a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And your first job, which is an amazing one, is you didn't get a job here in the regional areas like a lot of people start out. You ended up getting one in the UK. Mm-hmm. How did that come about, getting your first teaching job in the UK?
So the university, when they know you're about to graduate, they put you on a mailing list and they give you all these different resources or opportunities. And they said 3 UK headmasters are coming over for interviews. I'm like, why not? What you got to lose? I went in, spoke to them, went well, and said, we'll recommend you to a couple of schools. Ended up having a chat with a school over there on Skype. And the next thing you know, I had a contract offer in front of me. And I'm like, wow, it's actually real. You're excited by, like with the move to Greece, you're excited by the possibility. And then it gets real. And you're like, wait a second, this is actually something that's going to happen.
Did you, was one of the first things like, all right, now that I'm going to be working in the UK, I get to go and watch the EPL?
Yeah, well, I'm an Arsenal fan, and I'm like, the school I picked was in the school that picked me, sorry, I didn't pick them, is in High Wycombe, which is about a 20-25 minute train run from London. So I was like, yep, this is perfect. And while I was there, I managed to go to about 14-15 Arsenal games, which was fantastic.
How long were you there for?
I was there from January until July that year.
What was the experience like being at EPL? Because in Australia, we know a lot of people here, people that don't even support the A-League, they always say, the EPL is the best league in the world. and they don't go to A-League games, but they've never been to an EPL game, and they've still got that opinion. But you've been privileged enough to go to all those two, and also to Olympiakos in Greece as well. But what was it like to go to an EPL game? Was it did it meet the standard of what you were expecting?
We had actually gone a couple of years before with my friends when we were at uni to Arsenal
Yeah.
and the Liverpools, and it's a fantastic experience. Don't get me wrong, it's sold out stadiums, but I was more amazed by how mainstream it is, because here it almost at times feels you're fighting to survive, fighting for that attention. And over there
With the A-League?
yeah, over there it's the thing. You're at a 60,000 people stadium, and there's waiting lists to come in. So just being there and that being a reality and it's like kind of being sucked up in a movie,
Yeah.
You're like, you wake up and you stay up to watch it all your life, and you're suddenly engrossed in it. You feel like you're part of something
Yeah.
much bigger than you. And then it happens in the big stage. And also I was living in Wickham. And then at days I was at High Wycombe with, instead of 60,000 people at the Emirates, we were there with 8,000 people in High Wycombe watching the Wycombe Wanderers play.
Yeah.
So just that concept replicated over and over and over again in different sizes in such a small country was just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But it's with the A-League, it's got its own beauty. You
Yeah.
can't compare. It's
Nah.
apples and oranges. And at times it's preferable. You have to appreciate and respect what you have. And for the people that say, ignore the A-League or the local league, well, if you ignore it and you complain about the quality, you're part of the problem, aren't you?
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, mate. You are part of the problem. Not you, but those people are part of the problem. But that's a good thing about it. If you want to go and experience the style of what Greek football and what that produces, you go to Greece, obviously, for that. Go to EPL for what that produces. The local leagues in even the non-league games in England.
Just that, and with Greek football is rubbish. I'm Greek, I'll admit it. But fans show up because they're not saying I'm going to watch. And I've got cousins and friends who are big Liverpool, Man United fans, and they watch that, but they are there watching their team play because that's their local team. They support the local team, not because of the sparkling football it produces, but because it represents them, their area, and they're proud of it.
And I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people are starting to do that with the A-League now. There's still a little bit of separation, which I understand. It's got a lot of history here in Australia football. But I think one thing that LA United did really well so far is they've got a lot of young players coming through, and those young players have local teams that they represented growing through. And the first game for this year the second game, but it's the first Melbourne, the Derby with Melbourne Victory, produced a massive crowd down at Cooper Stadium, brand new stadium, and 13,500 people. I actually felt like I was at an NPL game because there's a lot of people that I bumped into from all different clubs that were there to go and see their players that used to play for them. So I saw a lot of people from White City or FK Belgrade who were going there to support their players. Popovic, you got Luka Jovanovic, Lockie Barr, and also Josh Murray, and also Damien Murray, who's the former coach as well, all part of that club and all came through the system, those players. And they're all there to support them, plus other ones. It was an awesome feeling, and I think that's what it's needed for people to support.
It's the pride of the community, which you can't have a disconnect because one doesn't exist without the other.
Yeah.
So a strong local league means a stronger Adelaide United. A stronger Adelaide United means a stronger local league. Vice versa. There's an interdependence there, and one side's strong with the other one, and it hasn't always been like that.
No.
And you felt it, So it's good that these clubs are starting to show some appreciation and respect for each other, which is much needed. We have enough problems with forces outside of football trying to take football down. We should not be our own worst enemy.
Yep. Well, absolutely. And I love it though because like me and you, our relation to the local game is very similar. How we both started as A-League fans and don't really have a connection to any particular club. We're just about the local football. We love the game. I love the game. I'm talking on from my part here that I just love the community aspect of it and being able to support those clubs and watching these players now. Especially, I've only been commentating the local NPL for a couple of years now, but the players I've seen come through already just recently. In Ethan Alagic, obviously Lockie Barr, who's a bit older now, and all the other ones, Luka Jovanovic, Popovic, all coming through. It's awesome to see that from the NPL. So in 10 years' time, it's going to be great. But how have you enjoyed watching that, being what as a fan, also writing about these players and sometimes predicting where they're going to head, and then seeing them to doing what they're doing?
So with the connection, you said the only connection I have is I'm Greek, which isn't much of a connection, but my uncle grew up a big West Adelaide fan. My cousins play for West Adelaide, and I do have a soft spot for West Adelaide. But like you said, I don't have a solid connection.
Yeah.
So I started actually following the NPL, following Adelaide United's youth team when I came in.
Yeah.
You know, and I found that has been a very good education of the NPL, because not only do you watch these other teams play, when a lot of these players are in the Adelaide United system because they're quite good at what they do.
Yep.
The reality is not everyone's going to make it in the Adelaide United A-League squad. So a lot of these players are good enough to continue, and they filter out to these other clubs, and then suddenly after a couple of years, you know a few of these players from Comets, you know a few players from White City, you know a few players at Olympic, and suddenly it's all the puzzle pieces start filling in, and you learn the ones around it, and then suddenly you have quite a good knowledge of the local competition.
Yeah, you sure do. Because now I've seen that, especially last season was when I started just following it closely, because before I used to keep an eye on it but not really follow it like real close. Like you said, I was at LA United Youth, and actually it's funny because I think it's about 5 years ago since I attended my first NPL game, which was LA United. It's a State League 1 game when LA United got promoted.
Yeah.
So that was the first time. I used to watch it on the streams and stuff. I never really attended. So it's funny how LA United links some people like that to the local game, but it's and you're watching them come through. It's great. What's some of the players have you seen over the years that you've started locally watching games come through?
But like even right now, we watch people like Ethan Allegich, who has a very solid season, and then is put on the spotlight against Melbourne Victory and does himself proud, you know. But you've had a few good players over the years. I remember when Riley McGree was playing for the youth team. I mean, he looked decent. He looked all right.
Yep.
And then he comes and plays and just takes the world by storm. So it's always, you see some players, you're like, they got something in them. And then they show up and they're just a different beast. You know, it's like they take it up a level when they go up. But even right now, someone like Johnny Yule, I reckon when he's back fit after the World Cup break, he should be starting for that Adelaide United A-League midfield every week, in my opinion. He's a fantastic player, you know. Ethan Allegich was fantastic in this NPL season. But, you know, Johnny was the real superstar in that team. You know, let's face it. So, you know, there's just so much quality, not just in the Adelaide United squad. There's all these players around the league that you're like, wow, you could do a job there, you could do a job there. That's why a potential second division is so important, so these players actually get the spotlight they deserve.
There is clubs that are a talk of some clubs in Adelaide wanting to get to that next level, and I think we're going to see a couple, hopefully, if this league finally gets off the gets off its whatever the saying is, if it finally gets started, it's going to be great. But your knowledge of the game, and I'm loving hearing it, because you're very knowledgeable of the local game and all these players as well. But it's good now that you are sharing that knowledge through your through the art form of writing. And it's only been a short time you've done it. You got a journalism degree, because when I first asked you about your writing, when I saw you at a game, the first question I asked was, so did you end up doing journalism at university, or did you do another course? What happened? How'd you get into it? And your answer was no.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, a hobby, you know. Like I was telling you off air, I'm just a teacher. Our school holidays, at times you've done everything you need to do, and you're like, what do I do now? So that came up. I started writing. My plan was to write maybe here and there, maybe an article a month or something like that. And I've done 100 times more, literally 100 times more than I expect. And I've loved every minute of it. You know, you speak to some people that you didn't even think you'd be talking about. You write some stories that you wouldn't even have known about. So, you know, it's just been a great time. And that helps you learn more and get a respect and appreciation for all these little things. So there's all these great stories out there that you just don't hear about. And then you hear about it and you're like, wow, people need to know about this, you know?
I know that firsthand, because I love sharing these stories as well. But it's different doing a podcast and chatting to someone like this. It's a lot different, and I get different stories than what you would get writing. Because if I had to write down I think I'd ask questions totally differently. So how do you find to try and ask certain questions to fit your narrative, or also to be able to write a story? Like how do you go about it?
Yeah, and it's a lot. I do try to make it like this a normal chat,
Yeah.
and then like you have to be selective with what you include in this. So
Yeah.
you get a lot of good stuff, and you're like, oh, I'd love to fit this one in, but I just can't. There's nowhere to put it in. So sometimes you get stuff that you're like, I can't fit it in. But other times, for example, when I was talking to Dom Costanzo about, I was going to write an article about just him and his dad, following his
Yeah.
dad's legacy. And then I spoke to him. I was like, I've got enough of this one, but my God, I could write another one about why this guy is like the poster boy for a national second division.
Yeah.
So at times you might get like a completely different angle as well. So I think it's like you ask what you want, and you also have some questions, I guess, to get people comfortable that it's not like this interview, answer this question with your media training, straight bat everything. And you get like a more personal answer, a more genuine answer after. It's just about making them comfortable, you know?
Yeah, and I've read some of your articles, and it is a little bit. I like how a lot of new journalists come through. There's a lot of people going through now because there's a lot of avenues now, which is fantastic for local football writers to come through. And it's good. It's different because you're not trained from uni, so you haven't got that same training that everyone else goes through. Because especially like with me, my background, I don't have the same journalism degrees or training. I worked in community radio, got a job in commercial radio, been around the environment and found my own style of doing interviews and stuff like that. Similar thing for you doing writing? Have you found your own style and just gone
and
like that?
I guess it's something you don't really think about when you start, because you're like, I've been reading football articles all my life, and you start replicating stuff without thinking about it. Then you start doing your own thing, or you do a couple of things. Sometimes you're like, this really worked for me, or you found something really difficult to write, and you're like, why did I find this so difficult to write? And you work kind of backwards, I guess. So I think without a degree like that, it's a lot more of a self-discovery process that I do this or I enjoy doing this. Like, for example, something that I'm not a huge fan of is just writing a cut and dry match report. I like taking like a different view with a match report. For example, the one I wrote about Melbourne victory and United the other day, my focus is that was the game from Ethan Allegic's perspective, young boy first game. So instead of a cut and dry match report, you get something a bit deeper.
Yeah.
So that's something I figured out after a while when I was doing just these plain match reports. I'm like, why am I doing this? There's about another 15, 20 of those being done. How can I do this slightly differently? So it's something you figure out for yourself. And everyone figures out different things. If everyone's doing the same thing, there would be no point. Yeah. So it's good that there's different avenues to go about it.
You're a teacher though, but this is just a side hobby you're doing. And it's amazing how these side hobbies sometimes help do greater things, because they're helping these local clubs get a bit more awareness in places like the Inner Sanctum, the Inner Sanctum's doing some amazing things at the moment.
So many sports.
Yeah, it's great what Jack Hudson's done for the sports. And also I've got a mate, Anthony Alessiani, who does writing for him as well, for does all the Port Adelaide stuff, and also some
F1
F1, some video, all the video stuff for him. So he does some incredible things for them, and what the avenue they're producing for these new writers and podcasters, YouTubers as well, in Anthony, is great. But the being able to produce that stuff for yourself, is that something that you want to do professionally at some point?
It's not something that, I'm out to say, I'm going to get this, I'm going to be... I'm a teacher, I enjoy my teaching, I love my teaching, but this is something I've really, 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 really enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
So if something comes of it, fantastic. If not, no problem. I'm a teacher. This is my hobby. One thing, though, about Australia is with writing, at least, it's a real place where you have to be diversified.
Yeah.
People write 4, 5, 6 different sports. That's not me. I'm a football... I love AFL as well. I'm a Port Adelaide supporter. I want to write about Port Adelaide. It's not my thing. I just like writing about football. The football.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. And I know this isn't what the niche is right now, but that's what I do. And if it's a thing that I do, I might get a payment for here and there. Fantastic. If it's not a payment, fantastic. Just those connections I've been able to make have been, reward enough so far for me.
Yep.
Like I said, a year ago when I started doing this, I thought I was going to write one thing here and there and that be it. I've talked to players I watched growing up.
Yeah.
I've talked to next big stars coming up. I've talked to clubs. Preston, I talked about the other day in Melbourne, that's offering all the junior girls free registration and insurance for a whole year.
That's amazing.
It's just so many different stories, and being able to share those stories and put a smile on those people's faces who are in the same spot as me. They're doing it because they're volunteers, and to show off their club and what they're doing. It's just, reward enough for me right now, at least.
And the story you wrote as well about Manchester City teaming up in South Australia and talking to Daniel Mullen about that as well, being instrumental in that.
Something like that. It's just so many stories. That was my first concern after the A-League game. I'm like, what do I write now? I'm like, will I be just writing one thing about the MPO every week? But once you start writing, there's all these different things open up, and you just realise there's just so much out there, and if you just go and ask the question, you may be surprised at the answers you get or the stories you hear.
Yeah. Well, that's it. The things I've learned from doing these chats is incredible. Like hearing about people that played with, trained with Maradona, or went out to dinner with these big names and stuff, and you're like, wow, like these type of stories. It's great to hear these type of things. Like, I don't really talk about it that often, and you get to talk about these stories of like Man City teaming up with a school here in South Australia is awesome. But you've also had some good opportunities as well, talking to a lot of different players and coaches. And the one I remember as well is here in Adelaide. There was Australia Cup at the newest facility in South Australia, which is State Centre for Football, but known currently as the Service FM Stadium. You were in the change rooms with both Dwight York for Macarthur FC, the coach of Macarthur, and also Charlie Austin for Brisbane Roar. Unfortunately, those two games were disappointing for the Modbury Jets and LA United in the respective games because they both lost to those teams. But you had the great opportunity and ended up being a positive for you because you went in the change rooms and chat to both of those guys to write an article. How was that? It's a different situation from talking to Johnny Yule or Alagich or someone like that, and then talking to these big names from overseas as well.
It's funny because for the first time we spoke to Dwight York, I wasn't really feeling it. I was like, oh, it'll be cool. And then I walked in with Matt Mays, who is obviously English, and he was just so nervous. And I'm like, that's when he hit me. I'm like, okay, I'm nervous now too. Yeah,
well, Matty Mays, everyone knows Matty Mays. Also another Arsenal fan. We've spoken about him a lot this year. I need to get him on, I reckon. I'm going to message him as well, just let him know he's getting mentioned one more time. I think I've got to put a tally together. But he, it's good of him. Like I think you contacted him, didn't you? And to maybe make a chat to Dwight. Is that what happened?
I let him know. He says, I'll be having one too. Join me, and that was fantastic. I really, really appreciate it, and especially after the Brisbane game too. And I was like, we'll be able to do it with Charlie, and he managed to organise. And I'm very, very thankful for Matt, because both that plus getting to write about the MPL Grand Finals, just unreal opportunity. So really grateful.
I still want to talk about the Dwight York one as well, because Matt got to chat to him as well. What was it like, the feeling when you walked in and saw Dwight York there? Sorry, for those that don't remember, Matt Mays is obviously the media manager for Football South Australia. He does a lot of work, and obviously he's connected to a lot of people in South Australia because he does a lot of work for the game as well. But what was the feeling like for the both of you walking in there and seeing? Because I know how both of you personally are massive English football fans. So to have an icon like Dwight York standing there in a local venue in South Australia and ready to chat to you guys, like, what was the feeling like?
Well, it was the other way around, actually. We went in the room and they told us, wait here for Dwight.
Oh, is that what
we were just waiting there for...
That'll make it even more nerve-wracking, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Dwight York to walk in, and he just walks and you're just like... It's one of the situations where you feel the aura of the person in the room, and I felt the same way with Thierry Henry in England. That was a whole different kettle of fish. Yeah. But yeah, when he walked in, you can just feel it. But what a guy, seriously. Just so open, happy to answer your questions. it was just a fantastic chat, a very, very genuine chat. And for him to give up his minute for a couple of guys in South Australia, it was just a fantastic opportunity and very, very, very fortunate to have been involved.
Yeah, and still like one of his earlier games as well in that period as well. So he only played about 2 or 3.
And he ended up winning the competition too.
Yeah, so that would have been really cool. And then the Charlie Austin one, he seems like a great character.
Yeah.
We've watched the A-League All Access on him. I thought that was one of the best episodes. And it's getting better and better every week. But it's great to see like his life broken down and seeing that side of a player. But to get to go and chat to him, how'd that feel?
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And that was, like we said, disappointing enough for South Australia. Adelaide United gets knocked out. And it took actually a while for him to come out because they were all partying in the dressing room, understandably so too, after the week they had with all the Corey Brown stuff, if you remember. So they came out, right. It was very open. And again, I wasn't sure where I was going to take it, but he really made his focus about his family. It was his first goal for the club, saying this was for my family. So that was my focus on that one. And for a guy that's been here 5 minutes to be so open, so vulnerable, he's such a genuine person. And I think these are the types of players we need to be attracted, because I keep saying this with Adelaide United. Look at the imports we've brought in over the years. Who are the best ones? Not just the best players, but genuinely the best characters too, best people.
Yeah.
Look at the Marcelo Caruscas, the Casios, the Pablo Sanchez's, you know.
Isaias.
It's like fantastic footballers, but just genuinely good people too. And that's what you should be targeting. And that's what they've done with someone like Charlie Austin, who's fantastic, but, you know, just so down to earth.
It's funny because you're just a local writer, and you only had been doing it for like a year or less than a year by that point. Or it would have been like 8 months or something. Something like that. But locally, when someone like, so you go to someone like Daniel Mullen or Allegich or anyone like that, they all know who you are and go, oh, this kid, like, this guy's doing stuff locally and helping our game. They give you that time because they know what you do for the game and they love the game. But these people, like you just said, they're from overseas, big names, and they're giving you the time. That must feel really good.
Yeah, and, you know, it's like people like that.
Yeah.
People like Dwight York's played at Man United. Charlie Austin's played for a few different clubs in the UK. So giving up with Dwight York, it was just genuinely me, Matt, Anthony Lanzoni was there getting pictures of us, and also their media manager. That was it. That was the room.
Yeah.
With Charlie Austin, it was me and Charlie Austin by the tunnel, and just Matt just waiting for the chat to finish right next to it. So just to have that platform
cool.
A year ago would have been, I would just laughed at you, seriously. So it would be unheard of. So yeah, it's still, I still think back and I'm like, wow, this happened, didn't it?
That's cool, man, and I love that moment that you get to experience that. Because I know what it feels like to do though, to be there and think, oh, this is so surreal. Like I'm getting to this is like a dream.
It's you pinch yourself, and I thought I've had a couple of those moments throughout the years, and those have definitely been moments that you're like, wow.
Well, you mentioned Thierry Henry. What happened with Thierry Henry?
That's a story, and I haven't told you this story.
No, I haven't. So I want to know a little bit about this. Well, I want to know all of it, actually.
So yeah, it's on all my social medias. Here's my profile picture, and it will not change. I'll be 80 years old, and I'm still going to look like 21 with Thierry Henry, unless I magically run into Arsene Wenger in the street somewhere. So living in England, I rock up to a game, and Visit Rwanda, who are the sponsors of Arsenal, the sleeve sponsors, are doing a competition. Take a picture, post on social media with this hashtag, and you may win.
Yep.
Whatever, I'll do it. Sure. I'll do it. A week or two after, I get a message from Visit Rwanda saying, you've won a signed top by the whole team. I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, yeah, come and visit the Rwandan High Commission in London, and we'll pick it up. I'm like, sure. Ozil, Aubameyang, some Socrates, who is Greek like me, some real good names on the top.
Yep.
I go pick it up, and I'm speaking to the guy then. He's a very good guy. I was supposed to pick it up and go. We ended up having a chat for like 20 minutes.
Yep.
And he said to me, oh, we're having a dinner later in the year if you want to come. I'm like, when is it? He said to me, June. I'm like, all right, I leave in July. I'll come in June.
Yep.
He's like, sure. He's like, I'll send you an invite when the time comes. I forget about it. A couple of months, I get an invite saying, dinner at the Emirates with 2 Arsenal legends. And I'm like, they didn't name them. Like, it might be like someone like Ray Parler who came in Sydney when we went.
Yeah.
Like someone like Nigel Winterburn. They're still involved with the club. Sure, whatever. I rock up on the day, get 3 trains, one from Wickham into London, a couple from London to get to the Emirates. Exhausted after a day of school, having a drink. I walk in. I'm in my teacher stuff, just a shirt, and people are there with suits and ties. What am I doing here? I don't belong here. Anyways, I'm walking around. I end up talking to someone who's on Norwich's board.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, sure. We're talking about Greek football. I was telling him about the Olympiacos game I had been a few months ago. We're talking, and then from the corner of my eye, and this is where I tell you can feel the aura of the person, I see someone that looks like Thierry Henry. And I'm like, in my head, that looks like Thierry Henry. And I'm like, is it? I'm like, I'm at the Emirates. Of course it's Thierry Henry. So I just sheepishly walk over. I'm like, I didn't know he was here for that. I'm like, I need to talk to Thierry Henry before Thierry Henry goes. So I was like, I love you. I grew up watching you. Can I please have a picture? He's like, yeah, of course. Get a picture. I was like, oh, thank God. I got a picture with Thierry Henry. I'm just losing my mind, messaging my friends to show that you'll never guess what just happened. And then I see the guy that invited him. I like him, Thierry Henry is here. It's like, yeah, I know. He's like to me, Tony Adams is coming too. And I'm like, are you for real? And it's funny because that was my last time at the Emirates for that time. I was living there because I was leaving in a few weeks.
Yep.
And before that, the pictures on my phone before that, I was like, I'm going to go get a picture of the statues on Reed, Tony Adams, just before I go. And the next pictures after were of me and the real Thierry Henry and me and the real Tony Adams.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's just still something. I'm just like, this didn't happen to me.
That's a good side-by-side. Statues versus real life.
It's just one of those pinches of moments. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, all the planets aligned, you know? It's just a ridiculous thing to even consider that happened.
Could you imagine if you were writing back then, you could have written an article and asked them, if you got the chance again to meet them again, but for writing an article, what would you do if you had them in the same situation you had with Charlie Austin and Dwight York? What would you ask them? Like one question each.
Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it?
I know, I'm putting you on the spot here.
With Thierry, probably something, I don't know, I'd like to ask the hard question. Probably something about the Champions League final, because you know, he was such a great player for Arsenal, but on that day, he had those chances, and how does that feel? Because that's just the whole other side. You know, we focus on all the positive stuff, but you know, I feel like we all, and himself included, have sleepless nights about that. And with Tony Adams, probably something about how he's been able to, I guess, it's again outside of Arsenal, but how he's turned his life around, because he's fought with a lot of stuff, like alcoholism and depression, and he's really worked hard to turn that around. So it's just something along those lines, because he's had a very, very interesting story. So I'd ask a lot.
I can imagine, but that's a cool thing about what you're doing now is that this journalism thing could, especially when you're a fan of the game and of certain clubs, to be able to do this stuff, it's like a dream come true, isn't it? Doesn't seem like work, does it?
No, it's like I say, it's a hobby. I don't see it as work. I do it, and teaching, for anyone that's not aware of, is a very, very, very hard job. There's a lot of hours that go into it, and I have to go out of my way to fit these things in, and I do it because I enjoy it. If I didn't, I wouldn't. But it's definitely a worthwhile thing, and that's why I do it.
Absolutely, mate. And I love hearing these stories, and I'm sure it's only been 12 months, but there's a lot more to come. We've got the World Cup happening now. You doing anything with the World Cup?
Yeah, we'll be doing, with Front Page Football, they're going to be doing podcasts after the Socceroos games. And within the Sanctum, we might have a few different things coming up.
That's cool. Cool experience there. But then next year, you got the Women's World Cup, so we don't know what's happening yet in that field, but more opportunities coming.
It's just fantastic having it here. How crazy is it that with Hindmarsh, everything's basically sold out already? So this is gonna, and I think a lot of people haven't realised the magnitude of this event. We see with the Cricket World Cup, we had it here the other day, and Australia played in front of not even a half Adelaide Oval. This is going to sell places out, and these people aren't coming here to sit down and just clap politely.
No way.
A lot of these places around Australia will be rocked. A lot of people will wake up to the reality that this is something special. And I hope, and in South Australia it's happening for us, but in other states like Melbourne, they get the funding they need for those facilities. Because I was talking to Preston, for example, the president reckons 3 of their pitches, junior pitches, were underwater for the whole year. So a club like that, who's offering all their girls a free year of football, they're going to need more grounds, more facilities.
Yeah.
Imagine having a Women's World Cup, having all these superstars on your doorstep, you wanting to go sign up to your local club. The worst you can hear is, sorry, we've got too many.
Yep.
So I really don't want us to get there. So it's great having it here, but we also need to invest in it. And I think a lot of these local governments will wake up to that fact, I'm hoping.
Hopefully it's not too late that it's missed the boat of those people keen for it. But in saying that, though, we're only talking about other states, because South Australia, I think, is one step ahead of everyone, because what they're doing, like Kimberly Conte and Michael Carter and the crew there in South Australia, Football South Australia, I've had the privilege of chatting to a few people there, and especially Kimberly, and what they've done and what the legacy plan, especially here in South Australia, has been unreal.
And when I spoke to the president, he used South Australia as a good example.
Yeah.
Unprompted.
Yeah.
So it's not just a South Australian thing. People understand how much work is getting done here and appreciate it. And I always say this, we're not Melbourne, we're not Sydney, but we are so privileged. We have what we have here. Because you look in Queensland, you look in Perth, what's happening there, not just with their A-League sides, but also with local football, we are miles ahead, you know? So very, very privileged.
I can't wait. I'm excited to go to those games. You got your tickets for all games?
Got my tickets for all games.
All
and
games.
The final.
I'm only just missing out the English game, unfortunately. I could not get tickets to that, but it doesn't matter.
I got that package, so we know 5 of those
Yeah, I
ones,
didn't think
plus the World Cup final. So
Yep. I didn't think
wait to attend the World Cup final.
I didn't think ahead for that. I just waited till all the tickets went single tickets, which is stupid by me. But I'll be at the final too, so we'll probably end up being there together. Hopefully we get to see some stars over there as well. But mate, it's been a pleasure chatting to you and seeing not only because I get to talk to coaches, players, and I've spoken to other people involved in Football South Australia and things like that, but people that support the game in similar roles to what I do and stuff like this is great, because you see a different perspective and what it's like to promote the game and hear the stories that you've had. And sometimes for those people that are out there and then chat to you and give you 5 minutes, at least they know what it means to you. For them, to them, they're giving up 5 minutes of their time to chat to you to write an article, but it means a lot to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like, and every one of those interviews, you know, it's easy to forget about if you're an outsider, but like you have to spend time putting the question, and I'm sure you deal with it here, putting the questions together, and then the time, at least with the articles, to transcribe it, write everything down, and then to select. A lot of time and effort goes into it, and like I said, this only happens because it's something I enjoy, and other people are out there doing it. I know of so many people doing this as volunteers for football and other sports, doing it because they enjoy it. You know, so much appreciated for everyone I've talked to, and thankfully it's way too long of a list to mention. I've enjoyed every single minute, and I can't wait to keep doing it because I genuinely enjoy doing it.
Yep, and I love that passion, mate, and hopefully we can see you writing more articles for the Socceroos and that in the future, and hopefully it's a paid job soon, which would be fantastic.
Whatever happens.
No, but that's what's good about you, mate. You got the right attitude there, and you love the game, and that's what is great about it, and privileged to chat to you. But let's go into the final questions of this podcast.
You should have prepared. You mentioned it. Oh, no.
There we go. I love the reaction there because you forgot about the kicking it questions. Every guest gets them.
We even mentioned it before the podcast. It just flew all over my head.
There you go. Well, let's get straight into it. The kicking it questions. You've obviously listened to my podcast and know what the other ones are like. So who would you... As a helicopter, I think, flying above us at the moment. But
maybe they're dropping off who I want to have a kick with.
They might be. So who would you love to have a kick with on the park? Anyone?
It has to be Lionel Messi. You know, it's just a magician. You know, you grow up watching him, and you know, as a kid, you're just like, he shouldn't be doing this. So I'd love to have a kick with Leo Messi.
And you could probably afford that helicopter to fly above us as well. So, that would be a good one.
To Qatar. I'm sure you've got that a couple of times, but, you know, it's just shows how magical he's been, you know. It's beyond humanly what he's been able to do for all these years.
Yeah. With, so if you got the chance to kick with him, like, what would you, if you had an opportunity, because you're a journalist, I need to ask you this question again. What would you ask him as well?
Well, I'd put in a lot of time and effort to learn Spanish because I have to for the occasion. But again, I'm really, really invested in this youth development. So
Yeah.
I'd love to know, because his path wasn't very smooth. And if he was in a system like Australia's, who knows if he'd even have been given the opportunity. So
Yeah.
I'd just love to know just that process of going as a child from your hometown to Barcelona, being on growth hormones, and how that works, being in Barcelona as an outsider, and then having to prove yourself as an outsider before becoming a star. So I'd just love to know that process as a kid, how that worked for him physically and mentally. So
Yeah.
that's what really fascinates me. And then once you make it, that's a whole nother conversation there. But I'd really love to know about that process.
Yep. And now the other one. Who would you love to kick with on Saturday night, watch some football with? One person locally, one person internationally. Well, you've already kicked with Thierry Henry. So.
Locally. Craig Goodwin.
Craig Goodwin, that's a good one.
Craig Goodwin, he's another one that's got such a great story, of he's an Adelaide United legend, but Adelaide United rejected him when he was younger.
How funny is that? Like,
he's had to do it the hard way, and that's why you have moments like he was asked at the presser on Wednesday, "Are you going to play against Victor? Or are you going to rest for the World Cup?" And he just laughed at us. Like, "You're going to have to hold me back," because he used to watch these games on TV, hopefully it's me one day.
Yeah.
So Craig Goodwin is like the embodiment of South Australia right now. So definitely Craig. And then...
we did gloss over it already. We haven't even got... I wanted to talk about it, the Craig Goodwin press conference, because that moment there for you, to be involved in a press conference with Craig Goodwin straight after being selected for the World Cup, open to all media broadcasters, and you're there asking some great questions, by the way. What was it like?
It's, again, a pinch yourself moment. This guy is about to... He's just gotten the call from the national team coach saying, dream come true.
Yep.
He's playing against his big rivals on Friday. He's jetting off on Sunday. And I'm there somewhere in the middle. It's just ridiculous. And something that if you told me it would happen, I'm like, of course it's not going to happen. So, very, very privileged. But Craig is definitely my local one for, like I said, he's the embodiment of just everything good about South Australian football right now. Internationally.
Yeah, here we go.
It's probably, I'm a prisoner of the moment, but my God, what a moment. I'd love to just sit down and talk and have a chat or a kick with Mikel Arteta and all the great stuff he's done at Arsenal. Because we see so many coaches around the world going to these top opportunities and just fail dismally. And he's gotten in and he has just completely turned that place around. I'm sure you can talk to any Arsenal fan you want, Matt Mays or Nicholas Bucco, and they'll all just sing his praises. Because what he's done, because for a lot of non-Arsenal fans, you may not realise just how toxic it was there for a while. And right now, he is top of the league, 5 points clear with the youngest squad in the league. It's just, the work he's been able to do is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And again, he's been a player in his own right. He's worked under Pep Guardiola at City. Now he's managing one of the bigger clubs in the world. So, my God, some of the stories he'd have, you could talk for ages, So, Mikel Arteta right now, definitely.
That sounds like two good choices there, mate. And I would love to talk to Craig Goodwin as well. That'll be on my list, I reckon. He's such a nice guy, by the looks of it.
Absolutely. It's pleasure. And again, he could comfortably be playing for a lot of leagues around the world, but he's ours. At times you're just like, how? But like I keep saying, Adelaide is just, the city is just so blessed on the football scale for no apparent reason. I'm not complaining.
Absolutely. And just got to say as well, because obviously you're starting out in journalism, I'm starting out in podcasting. He did football. But it's very interesting for anyone starting out in anything they're doing to watch what Craig Goodwin's story is, how it started. He got knocked back in South Australia, went to Victoria. I think he was working at KFC while playing local leagues.
Playing local league for Oakley.
Yeah.
Then he had to basically force his way into the A-League. And
through Melbourne Heart at the time.
And his first game, Melbourne Heart, best on the ground against Melbourne Victory. So, he's had nothing handed him. He's gone and banged down every door. Newcastle, then at United, had to play out of position in the Champions League winning year and left back, gets his European move,
Yep.
Comes back, goes to Saudi, comes back, and it's just been spectacular ever since. And for someone who could have arguably not had a career, you know, I could make an argument right now for you that he's... I'm not saying I'll make it yet,
Yep.
but you could definitely make an argument that he's Adelaide United's best ever player. And from going from getting knocked back to them to this point,
Yep.
like, how much better can he get?
Absolutely. And when you get knocked back, it makes you even stronger. So I think that would have built him to what he is now. But if you can't tell, we're both Adelaide United fans, very passionate. So it was great chatting to you, mate. I really enjoyed it. We could be here for another hour. We could do a part 2 of just Adelaide United. Maybe we might have to do that.
Maybe one day, I reckon.
Mate, a pleasure for you to join me in the room and be able to talk football and your career to this point. Hopefully one day we'll see you writing on the big newspapers.
See how we go. There's a long time to go till then.
That was freelance football writer for the Inner Sanctum and Front Page Football, Antonis Pagonis. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow Kicking It Local SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon!